Will the House please come to order and members kindly take their seats? Good morning. The devotional exercise today will be led by the Reverend Mark Pitton of the Sharon Congregational Church.
Let us be together, seeking His Spirit. Come to these good people, giver of every grace, every joy, all wisdom. Come to them now and let them find a moment to ease the race of their day, the speeding of their minds, the swirl of their voices, and the questions that nag them. Let this be a moment to catch their breath, slow their breathing, to check the tightness of their muscles, the clenching of their jaw and brow and shoulder, and let the tensions leave as they exhale, as they slowly exhale. Come to these women and men who have come out of other lives and other concerns to be here now, living these days as a lightning rod and a weather vane. They give their wisdom and heart to serve towns and districts. They take on mighty tasks of state budgets, laws, victim safety, and infrastructure, all that balances the freedom and the unity of Vermont. They consider things even when only a few can see their value, willing to learn from colleagues. They let their voice be heard and let the group's wisdom lead. So be good to these people. Keep their homes and families safe and sound. Return them safe and as sound as anyone can be after days of budgets and committee meetings. Be good to these people by granting wisdom and efficiency to those around them who analyze, organize, and account for all the things that must get done so these people can bring their wisdom and decisions to a vote. Be good to them too by allowing them to laugh with joy, smile with satisfaction, and sleep in peace. Be good to them so that they may serve the state of Vermont and a spirit that moves in each of us in ways we will never fully understand. Amen.
Thank you. Members, we have 17 House bills for introduction this morning. With that, member from Poultney, can you please offer us a motion to suspend our rules in order to introduce bills by number only?
Madam Speaker, I make a motion to suspend rules in order to introduce bills by number only.
You have heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have suspended our rules in order to introduce bills by number only. Please listen to the first reading of bills by number only.
H362.
To the Committee on Health Care.
H363.
To the Committee on General and Housing.
H364.
To the Committee on General and Housing.
H365.
To the Committee on Human Services.
H366.
To the Committee on Health Care.
H367.
To the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development.
H368.
To the Committee on Agriculture, Food Resiliency, and Forestry.
H369.
To the Committee on Health Care.
H370.
To the Committee on Transportation.
H371.
To the Committee on Judiciary.
H372.
To the Committee on Judiciary.
H373.
To the Committee on Environment and Energy.
H374.
To the Committee on Environment and Energy.
H375.
To the Committee on Education.
H376.
To the Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs.
H377.
To the Committee on Judiciary.
And H378.
To the Committee on General and Housing. We have a bill on the notice calendar requiring referral to a money committee pursuant to House Rule 35A. House Bill 217 is an act relating to miscellaneous workers' compensation amendments affecting the revenue of the state. The bill is referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. Are there any announcements? Member from Manchester.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Last night, we had two wonderful events at the Capitol Plaza to celebrate the record number of openly LGBTQ legislators and elected officials who are serving in our brave little state right now, and to honor the legacy of our former colleague, Bill Lippert, who was a real champion, was and is a champion of gay rights, civil unions, and marriage equality. So it is fitting that today I am welcoming to the People's House my wife, Alex Heinz, who is here with us today for just a little bit. I met Alex in 2010, and it was truly love at first sight. And I can tell you that within a week of meeting her, I told her that we were going to get married, which completely freaked her out. And lucky I didn't lose her over that little slip up. Alex has spent 35 years working in patient safety and quality at Southwestern Vermont Medical Center in Bennington. She leads the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee at that regional hospital, and she's starting a second career as a coach. She is someone that is thoughtful, compassionate, very wonderful in every way, and she is truly my better half, except for I'm just a little bit taller. So thank you very much.
Will the family member of the member from Manchester please rise and be recognized? Are there any further announcements? Seeing none, orders of the day. Members, we are going to switch the order of bills on the action calendar today. We will be taking up House Bill 145, fiscal year 2023 budget adjustments first, and then continue in the order down, followed by H76 and those below. So with that, House Bill 145 is an act relating to fiscal year 2023 budget adjustments. The bill passed the Senate with a proposal of amendment that is printed in today's House calendar. The pending question is, shall the House concur in the Senate proposal of amendment? Member from Vergennes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Your House Appropriations Committee has reviewed the proposals sent back over to us from the Senate on H145, and we, on a straw vote of 12-0-0, have voted to not concur with the Senate proposal, and we request a committee of conference be appointed.
The member from Vergennes moves that the House not concur in the Senate proposal of amendment and that a committee of conference be appointed. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have voted not to concur in the Senate proposal of amendment and to appoint a committee of conference. Pursuant to your action, the chair appoints the following members to serve on the part of the House: the member from Vergennes, Representative Lanfer, the member from Middlebury, Representative Scheid, and the member from Underhill, Representative Squirrel. Member from Poultney, in order to get the rest of the committee of conference appointed today, can you please make a motion to suspend our rules to message our action on House Bill 145 to the Senate forthwith?
Madam Speaker, I make a motion to suspend rules in order to message our actions on H145 to the Senate forthwith.
The member from Poultney moves that we suspend our rules in order to message our action on House Bill 145 to the Senate forthwith. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have suspended our rules to message our action on House Bill 145 to the Senate forthwith. Now we'll turn to House Bill 76, which is an act relating to captive insurance. Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
H 76, an act relating to captive insurance.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed the bill. Next is House Bill 305, which is an act relating to professions and occupations regulated by the Office of Professional Regulation. The bill was introduced by the Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs. The member from South Burlington, Representative Nugent, will speak for the committee. Please listen to the second reading of the bill.
H 305, an act relating to professions and occupations regulated by the Office of Professional Regulation.
Member from South Burlington.
Madam Speaker, H305 would make various updates and changes to the regulation of specific professions in Vermont. Specifically, this bill makes updates and changes to the law for certain professions regulated by the state of Vermont as recommended by the Office of Professional Regulation, or OPR. This is a semi-annual housekeeping bill. I will now walk through the sections of the bill. Section 1 modifies the license application denial process so that denials based on the lack of qualifications are separate from denials based on misconduct. And this eliminates a duplicative part of the process and allows denials based on qualifications to go directly to the director. Section 2 allows synchronous virtual courses, live remote learning to qualify for continuing education requirements. Section 3 adds cosmetology to barbering as professions for which regional vocational technical schools and correctional facilities may confer credentials without a certificate of approval from the director. Courses taken by applicants toward this certification must still meet the director's standards. Section 4 expands to the public health hygienists after rulemaking the ability to carry out a potential teeth-saving procedure in locations like nursing homes and schools called Silver Modified Atraumatic Restorative Technique, otherwise known as SMART, which will help address inequity in dental care access. Section 5 requires the board to make rules regarding public health hygienists performing SMART prior to offering the treatment. Section 6 modifies license renewals for osteopathic physicians and removes a duplicative requirement. Section 7 defines pharmacy technician and self-administered hormonal contraception. Section 8 allows pharmacists to prescribe, order, or administer both self-administered hormonal contraceptives, including subcutaneous hormonal contraceptives, also known as the depot shot, and vaccinations as recommended by the CDC for patients 18 and older. Section 9 specifies under what conditions pharmacy technicians may administer vaccinations and allows them to continue administering COVID vaccines and tests for patients age 18 and older, even after the emergency authorization ends in May. Section 10 eases over-the-counter hearing aid dispensers by exempting them from requirements of other audiologists, and Section 11 corrects the statutory reference related to notaries. These changes and updates will help regulated professionals in Vermont better learn and maintain skills and certifications that help them continue to build their careers and better their lives. This bill clarifies how, when necessary, the state of Vermont can take steps to rectify mistakes and misconduct of certain professionals and expand access to healthcare for Vermonters through the expansion of the scope of practice for pharmacists, pharmacy techs, and public health hygienists. The effective date of this bill would be on its passage. The committee heard testimony from Legislative Counsel, Office of Legislative Counsel, President of the Vermont Association of Chain Drugstores, a doctor of dental surgery, Senior Policy and Legal Advisor, Department of Health, the Executive Director of the Vermont State Dental Society, Deputy Secretary of State from the Secretary of State's Office, the President of Vermont Retail Druggists, Staff Attorney, Office of Professional Regulation, Secretary of State's Office, the President of the Vermont State Dental Society, practice owner, Norwich, Vermont, the President, Vermont Pharmacists Association, and the Deputy Executive Director of the Vermont Medical Society. This bill passed out of the committee on a vote of 12-0, and your Committee on House Government Operations and Military Affairs respectfully asks for your support.
The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and third reading is ordered. The final bill on our action calendar for today is House Bill 41, which is an act relating to the referral of domestic and sexual violence cases to community justice centers. The bill was referred to the Committee on Judiciary, which recommends that the bill be amended as printed in today's calendar. The member from Essex Junction, Representative Dolan, will speak for the committee. Please listen to the second reading of the bill.
H41, an act relating to referral of domestic and sexual violence cases to community justice centers.
Member from Essex Junction.
Madam Speaker, H41 is a collaborative and comprehensive bill that would provide survivors of domestic and sexual violence with access to restorative justice at Vermont's community justice centers. The bill would allow survivors to access an approach that addresses the impact of violence and identifies ways to repair harm. Currently, due to outdated legislation, survivors of domestic and sexual assault are prohibited from accessing these interventions. To provide more context, I'll share a bit of the history. In 2007, community justice centers were codified in state statute. At that time, formalized restorative justice practices were first emerging in an organized and statewide manner. Community justice centers had a narrower scope, primarily focused around reparative boards for lower-level offenses. At that time, the Vermont Network Against Domestic and Sexual Violence and the movement to address domestic and sexual violence was uncertain of restorative justice approaches. They questioned the ability of such programs to hold offenders accountable and provide victim safety. As the community justice centers were codified in state statute, the Vermont Network and the Vermont Center for Crime Victim Services requested that the authorizing statute for community justice centers include a prohibition on referring domestic violence, sexual violence, and stalking cases to community justice centers. Today, the Vermont Network, in consensus with a number of other statewide stakeholders, is reversing course based on evidence that supports the effectiveness of restorative justice for survivors. Since that time in 2007, there has been a thoughtful and important evolution in restorative justice practices in Vermont and across the nation, as well as in the thinking and practices in the field of victim services. There is broad acknowledgement of an investment in the safety and tools provided by the civil and criminal legal system. But too often, legal responses can be further traumatizing or leave survivors lacking a sense of justice, resolution, or healing. Current legal responses are often designed around survivors who report their abuse and those who seek separation from the person who caused them harm. There remains a significant gap in community responses for victims who do not report or choose to remain in relationship with their partners. The majority of survivors of domestic and sexual violence never report their experience of violence to the legal system. National data suggests that half of domestic violence victims report to law enforcement, and only a quarter of sexual assault victims report to law enforcement or seek medical care for assault. In Vermont, it is estimated that only 20% of survivors access the criminal justice system, and BIPOC survivors are even less likely to access the system. Importantly, many survivors also continue to be in some form of relationship with the people who harm them, whether this is continuing an intimate partner relationship or navigating co-parenting. This is one area of significant potential for restorative approaches. As understandings of the limitations of the criminal and civil legal process have evolved, so too have explorations of restorative justice approaches for domestic and sexual violence. In 2018, the Vermont legislature passed Act 146, which created an interdisciplinary study committee to examine the potential for restorative justice for domestic and sexual violence. The interdisciplinary committee met for a year and issued a report with consensus recommendations which comprised the foundation of H41. Looking at the national level, in 2019, the Center for Justice Innovation cataloged the current use of restorative justice to address intimate partner violence. Additionally, in 2022, Congress reauthorized the Federal Violence Against Women Act, and for the first time created a grant program to support and fund restorative practices to address intimate partner violence. H41 considers the information gathered over the past 15 years and provides a narrow step towards creating a safe and victim-centered approach to restorative justice options for survivors of domestic and sexual violence. Testimony in committee and the work of stakeholders outside of committee led to a strong framework of consensus language to guide H41. Specific consideration was given to ensure that H41 maintains the following guiding principles: supports a victim-centered approach, creates survivor engagement at any point in the sequential intercept model, meaning a survivor can engage prior to entering the criminal justice system and/or at any point during or after the criminal justice process. It requires voluntary participation for all parties, provides locally created memorandums of understanding to meet the unique needs of communities, along with statewide oversight by the Attorney General's office to ensure effectiveness, and addresses confidentiality to protect participants, protect community justice centers, to protect the public, and to protect the integrity of the restorative justice process. And lastly, evaluates the effectiveness of the rollout and offers statewide next steps. H41, the bill before you, incorporates the above guiding principles from stakeholders and also addresses the recommendations from the Act 146 report in order to advance restorative justice opportunities for survivors of domestic and sexual abuse. Now I will turn to reviewing the sections of H41 as amended by House Judiciary. For those following along, you can find H41 on page 257 in today's House calendar. Section 1 directs the Community Justice Unit of the Office of the Attorney General to provide support to community justice centers for domestic violence and sexual violence case referrals. Section 2 creates an exception to the prohibition against sending domestic violence and sexual assault cases to community justice centers in accordance with Section 3 of the bill. So then Section 3 permits domestic violence and sexual assault cases to be referred to a CJC, Community Justice Center, providing the Community Justice Center has a current and executed memorandum of understanding with a local member organization of the Vermont Network Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. This section also directs the Community Justice Unit of the Attorney General's Office in consultation with the Vermont Network and the Center for Crime Victim Services to create guidance for memorandums of understanding on or before July 1st, 2024. Each memorandum of understanding must include protocols that establish a defined approach based on evidence, prioritize victim safety, require voluntary referral, require initial and annual training for the stakeholders, establish roles and participation for the stakeholders, establish written confidentiality standards, establish universal data collection standards, and establish written annual evaluation and quality improvement plans. Once an MOU, this continues in section 3, once an MOU has been verified for compliance by the Community Justice Unit at the Attorney General's office and has been executed by the parties, community justice centers may then accept referrals involving domestic or sexual violence. Section 3 further addresses confidentiality measures while considering the needs of successful intervention. It prohibits the use of information related to any offense that a person divulges in preparation for, during, or as a follow-up to the provision of programming pursuant to this section from being used against the person. However, this provision does not inhibit the disclosure of information in the following circumstances: where there is a threat or statement of a plan that a person may reasonably believe is likely to result in death or bodily injury to themselves or others, or damage to the property of another person. When disclosure is necessary to report bodily harm any party causes another during the restorative justice programming. Where there is reasonable suspicion of abuse or neglect of a child or vulnerable adult and a report is made. Where a court or administrative tribunal determines that materials were submitted by a participant to the program for the purpose of avoiding discovery of the material in a court or administrative proceeding. Section 3 also includes a Public Records Act exemption, stating that any records or information produced or acquired pursuant to the Community Justice Center process must be kept confidential and is exempt from the Public Records Act. However, a community justice center may disclose information to colleges, universities, public agencies of the state, and nonprofit research organizations that a community justice center has agreements with for use in connection with research projects. Section 4 deals with reporting requirements. It requires an interim report by July 1st, 2025, and a final report by July 1st, 2028, to assess the effectiveness and future needs of programming. Section 5 is the effective date, and the act takes effect on passage. H41 considers the information gathered over the past 15 years to provide a narrow step towards creating a safe and victim-centered approach to restorative justice options for survivors of domestic and sexual violence. In committee, we heard from the following witnesses: Legislative Counsel, Co-Director of Community Justice Division, the Attorney General's Office, the CEDO Assistant Director of the Burlington Community Justice Center, Legislative and Assistant Appellate Attorney of Vermont Department of State's Attorneys and Sheriffs, Restorative and Community Justice Executive of the Department of Corrections, Vermont State Police Officer representing the Department of Public Safety, Deputy Defender General and Chief Juvenile Defender from the Defender General's Office, the Executive Director of the Center for Crime Victim Services, Deputy Director of the Vermont Network Against Domestic and Sexual Violence, and the Executive Director of Vermont Network Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. H41 passed out of House Judiciary with a vote of 10-0-1, and we ask that you join us in our support by voting yes.
The question is, shall the bill be amended as recommended by the Committee on Judiciary? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have amended the bill. Now the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for that question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and third reading is ordered. Members, that completes the orders of the day. Are there any announcements? Member from Worcester.
Madam Speaker, I wanted to let members know that since we will not be meeting here tomorrow, tomorrow is the birthday of the member from East Montpelier, Representative Chapin, in case anyone would like to say anything to her today or tomorrow. Thank you.
Happy birthday, member. Member from Georgia.
Thanks, Madam Speaker. So today is Friday, History Friday. So we're going to just spend a couple of minutes talking about our hero, a couple of minutes. I'm not kidding, not long like last time. Our hero, Ethan Allen, he's the guy that we're going to spend some attention learning more about this session. So Ethan Allen was quite a guy, a Revolutionary War hero, a general in the Continental Army, a British prisoner of war, and the founder of the legendary Green Mountain Boys. And in Vermont, we know him as one of our early state heroes. We've already learned that he was born in Connecticut, not Vermont. Don't mix that up. He was born in Connecticut. In 1738, he married twice. He had 8 children and a life of adventure. So after fighting in the French and Indian War, that was 1754 to 1763, and different from the Revolutionary War. The French and Indian War was a worldwide conflict that somehow the colonies got drawn into, mainly through their relationship with England. So Ethan and his brothers, after that war was over, so after 1763, they came up in this part of the world and explored much of the New Hampshire grants. That's what is now Vermont. And afterwards, Ethan purchased land and settled in what is now the state of Vermont. The Allen family names appear in many of the early deeds in the part of the state that I represent, Franklin County, on mainly Vermont properties going back as early as the 1760s, but also on Grand Isle, Lamoille County, and some properties in Chittenden County. All was well until a dispute over the land in the Champlain Valley arose, spreading over much of the state, with both New York and New Hampshire claiming it as their own. More on this dispute later. But the possibilities for the future of what we know as the state of Vermont consumed much of the rest of Ethan Allen's life. I'll tell you later how this all happened, but he was captured by the British when he was out recruiting men to be part of his Green Mountain Boys. The British took him to England, where the king sent them back to the colonies, saying that prisoners should be kept on ships in the colony as British prisoners of war. After a quick stop in Ireland, Ethan Allen returned to New York, and after spending a total of 3 years as a British captive, was eventually released. He returned to Vermont and became devoted to the future of Vermont, its freedom from British rule and its freedom from what was to be the United States. He changed his mind on that eventually, but initially he didn't want Vermont to be part of the United States either. So that'll give us a quick start, Madam Speaker. More on all this later. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Are there any further announcements? Member from Essex.
Yes, hi. I also wanted to note that today marks a full year since carnage and warfare broke out in the Ukraine. As somebody of Mexican descent, I can relate to territory being invaded and taken in a land grab with violence. And after years and years of fighting for independence. Just like many wars, the Mexican-American War was an excuse to expand slavery and was, and the aftermath meant exclusion, oppression, lynchings, and racial structures that we are still living under. So I wanted to celebrate the freedom fighters and give my thanks to all of you here today for upholding the model of democracy that we need to defend. Thank you.
Are there any further announcements? Seeing none. Member from Poultney, can you please offer us a motion to adjourn until Tuesday, February 28th at 10 a.m.?
Madam Speaker, I make a motion this body stand in adjournment until Tuesday, February 28th, 2023 at 10 a.m.
You have heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and this body stands in adjournment until Tuesday at 10 a.m.